Hook, insult, silent exit. Now, I'm the owner of that house, so get out. My sister didn't just say it. She projected it. The music was still playing in the background, loud enough to pretend this was still a celebration. Glasses were midair. Laughter had just peaked seconds earlier, and then her voice cut through everything like it had been rehearsed. Conversations froze. Not completely, just enough. The kind of freeze where people don't want to look involved, but don't want to miss anything either. She stood near the center of the living room, one hand loosely holding a glass, the other holding papers she had shown to 3 relatives already that evening. Ownership transfer. Signed that morning. And let's be clear, she continued, taking a slow step toward me. This is legally mine now. If you don't like it, you can leave. Legally. That word carries confidence when someone wants to feel untouchable. I was near the hallway when she said it, not arguing, not interrupting, just existing in a space I had grown up in. Our parents were sitting on the couch, silent, not agreeing, but not disagreeing either. Silence can be approval when it needs to be. You don't even live here anymore, she added, her voice rising slightly. You just show up like you still have some claim. A few relatives shifted awkwardly. No one defended me. No one asked her to lower her voice. Because technically, she was right. The house was in her name. After years of her handling paperwork, managing details, being responsible, the decision had been made to transfer it fully to her. I hadn't objected. I wasn't fighting for property. But this wasn't about property. It was about hierarchy. When someone insecure gains ownership, they don't feel powerful. They feel exposed. And exposure demands performance. You think you can just walk in here anytime? She pressed. Those days are over. There it was. Not about money. Not about space. About control. I looked around slowly. The staircase still had the faint scratch marks from when we used to drag boxes up during renovations. The corner near the window still had the slight paint mismatch I had fixed myself one summer when contractors were too expensive. I remembered wiring issues I had paid to repair without announcing it. Tax confusion I had helped untangle quietly. Mortgage delays I had helped bridge without asking for acknowledgement. But listing contributions in a crowded room turns dignity into negotiation. And I don't negotiate my worth publicly. I'm not here to claim anything, I said calmly. My tone disappointed her. She wanted resistance. Resistance justifies aggression. You don't get to stand here like you belong, she snapped. Belonging. Interesting word to weaponize. Our mother finally spoke, but not to correct her. Don't turn this into a scene, she said, looking at me. I almost laughed, not out loud, but internally. I hadn't raised my voice once. My father avoided eye contact completely. Because here's the truth about family power shifts. When control changes hands, loyalty gets tested, not by fairness, but by fear. Some relatives were watching me carefully, waiting for pride, waiting for anger, waiting for me to defend my position. But I had already learned something years ago. If someone needs to announce ownership loudly, they are trying to convince themselves more than anyone else. I stepped closer, not confrontationally, just enough to lower the distance. If that's how you see it, I said evenly, I won't make it uncomfortable. She blinked. That wasn't the reaction she prepared for. So you're just going to leave? She challenged, almost irritated. I nodded once. Not defeated, not embarrassed. Clear. Because houses are assets. Respect is infrastructure. And infrastructure matters more than walls. She held the papers a little tighter, as if my calm threatened her authority more than shouting ever could. You always act superior, she muttered. No, I just don't compete for rooms. I picked up my jacket slowly. No rushed movements. No dramatic pauses for effect. The music had lowered. Someone had quietly turned it down without admitting they were doing it. As I walked toward the door, I felt it, the shift, not in her, in the room. People weren't seeing a brother being removed from a house. They were seeing a man refuse to argue over something that required an audience. At the door, I stopped briefly, not to reconsider, not to speak, but to register the moment. Ownership can transfer in a day. Character reveals itself in seconds. Behind me, I heard her say, "He'll be back." Confident, certain, because she believed everyone returns when access is threatened. What she didn't understand was simple. I wasn't attached to the house. I was attached to self-respect. And when those two collide, I don't hesitate. I opened the door quietly and stepped out. They thought I had just walked away from a property. They had no idea I had just stepped away from a power game I never intended to play. Quiet build, shift in power. I didn't go back. Not the next weekend. Not when another gathering was planned. Not even when my mother sent a careful message. "You know, your sister didn't mean it like that." I didn't argue. I didn't explain. Distance doesn't need defending. For the first few weeks, the silence felt unfamiliar. That house had been the center of every birthday, every argument, every holiday. Removing myself from it felt like stepping out of gravity. But something unexpected happened. Without the emotional pull of that place, my decisions became lighter, clearer. I redirected the time I used to spend showing up into building something that didn't depend on family approval. I expanded my work, took on larger contracts, invested more aggressively, but intelligently, strengthened partnerships I had been nurturing quietly for years. No announcements. No, watch me now. Just structure. Meanwhile, updates about the house reached me indirectly. Ownership, it turns out, comes with weight. Property taxes increased. Maintenance costs surfaced. A plumbing issue turned into a renovation expense. Tenants she had planned to rent a portion to backed out last minute. Legal ownership doesn't eliminate responsibility. It multiplies it. My sister, who once spoke with certainty, started sounding tired in conversations I overheard through relatives. She didn't realize it would be this expensive. She stressed. I didn't comment because I wasn't waiting for struggle. I was watching patterns. When someone claims power publicly, they rarely calculate the private cost. Months passed. My project scaled. Revenue stabilized at levels I had once only projected quietly on spreadsheets. I diversified, reduced risk, increased control. The difference between us became subtle but significant. She owned a house. I owned position. At a family wedding months later, I attended, not at the old house, but at a rented venue. Neutral ground. She approached me. Not loud. Not confrontational. Measured. "You've been distant," she said. "I've been busy," I replied. She hesitated before adding, "The house is a lot." There was no apology yet, just reality beginning to settle. I nodded once. Not smug. Not cold. Ownership teaches fast. But I wasn't there to offer solutions. I had learned something essential. If you solve a lesson too early, people never learn it. She studied me differently that night, not as someone to dismiss, not as someone to push out, but as someone who had chosen distance instead of drama and grown because of it. They were still adjusting to a title. I had already moved beyond needing one.